projects, you can see there's an awful lot of work to do. And I think the first step will be working with the local audit, which is not going to look like a report card. It's going to be something that the various different components of your community will be able to use to bring information into the consultation. After the consultation, in theory, everybody's important messages will be incorporated in one way or another into a long-term strategy, and we'll all work hard on that. The reality of change in any community is that it's not that fast. And so what I'm going to talk about is creating a tool that will allow you to track and keep the pressure up over time. Now, I'm calling it a report card, and I promote it as such, and I invite you to adapt and use it. We've, last April, we put together a model for report cards on homelessness right across the country. And so there are at least 10 of them now in the works, and they reflect a lot of what's happening in the local community in terms of the indicators and the stories that are told in them. At the same time, there is an amazing similarity in them, and that is because the model comes with a startup toolkit. Everything that, I'm looking at Meg McCallum over there, everything that the 70-plus agencies worked on for the first 3 years in our report card is included in the startup toolkit. And our understanding is that you will just use the bits you want, you'll structure it so it looks like your community is being reflected. So I was asked to share some tips about how you would do this, but I want to just step one point back. There's a lot of talk about 10-year plans and community plans, and every community will be a little different on that issue in terms of its readiness to move on that. So you may, as a community of people interested in the issue, be in a situation where you need to choose. Should we focus on getting a plan in our community, or should we focus on a report card? And I guess my recommendation would be is you're going to have to do it all. And you make it as simple and as easy as you can for yourselves. So your report card, for instance, could be a lot simpler than ours. The trick is to end up with a tool that holds politicians accountable. So I thought I'd just share a few tips about ours. The primary thing, and I mentioned this before, is that you need to recognize that any tool you create is all about your credibility. And it's just the fundamental piece. You need credibility when you're dealing with politicians, with church groups, with anybody else in the community other than yourselves. You have to have a base of credibility. And one of the primary groups you need it with, because there's such an important element in a community, is the media. You need to have them pick up your story and run with it. And in fact, that is what's happened in Ottawa. We haven't succeeded. We haven't gotten, the shelters aren't closing. We don't have a lot of affordable housing. Those are issues that happen at senior levels of government. But one thing's for sure, the media understands we need more affordable housing. They don't attack social housing very often at all anymore. They have learned that they have a problem in the community, and they reflect that problem based on the report card. There's 5 things, I think, that are sort of basic to any tool that you create. You need a group that can provide strategic oversight and that contributes the content to the tool. You need a commitment to data that is rigorous and consistent. And I highly recommend always using third-party or secondary sources. You don't have the money to create and do your own research, but there's great research that's out there that captures what the issue is and what the solutions are. You need at the same time to have a media strategy, because work you do that nobody else knows about is wasted work. Like all the reports that sit on shelves, great content, useless. And I don't believe in doing that. So I think whenever you do something, you do it with a campaign in place at all times. You need some way of coordinating it. You need a sort of prediction to fast and dirty production. That's really what it is. One of the things that I've spoken on the report card in different provinces now, and it's clear that on the community level, we're all quite different in how cohesive we move ahead on any issue. And one of the things about a report card is that it's something that can sort of set separate from any historical differences you might have, where people can come together around a key message and a higher level issue. And in this case, it would be affordable housing. So you create yourself a community coalition made up of what we call the people who are empowered to spend money on behalf of their organization. You need the people who've got the bucks in their pocket and who can say, all right, I'll provide a staff person for that, or I can give you this, or you just need that at your strategic planning table. But when you think about a coalition, it needs to be informed by the people who are on the ground in the community. So when there's a few, I'm sorry I could not bring enough copies because they weigh too much for everybody. But the structure of our report card is the first 4 or 5 pages is on the indicators and the data. And that's what we release at a press conference every year. And that's the story that gets picked up and spread quite extensively through our community. But also within the report card are several pages that tell the story of what's going on in the community. And that's, unless you have your community partners telling that story, owning that story, you lose your credibility, I think. I think that anytime you do something like a report card, there's certain things that happen. You need to be, and I'm always admiring of Michael Shathcott on this, you need to be able to hit the ground running when you're doing it. That being said, it probably takes us 4 months of the year to produce our report card each year, and we have it's quite routine, and there's always this temptation, oh, let's make it look different. No. Because it's the continuity of what it looks like and the information that it has in it is what allows other people to feel comfortable with it. So you'll see on it, our indicators are the same ones every year. Up until this year, we were tracking each year in the report card. Now we have it separate on a separate sheet that we give out, because the media is really, at this point, only interested in what happened this year, and do we assess it? We don't even have to give them the data anymore. Do we assess it as success or failure? And then they go after it. They just take our word for it. You have to fight to get that in place. It's recognizable. It truly is always the same, and yet every one of them is different. And so the first 5 are all on our website if anybody wants to glance through them. And I think that's the biggest benefit to doing them. These are what I call working documents. People use our report card year-round. They use it with their board of directors. They train their volunteers with it. Politicians use it in their speeches. They look at it as the truth about homelessness in Ottawa. And we don't have to fight for that anymore. We don't have to fight for the right to make statements. I'm not sure how we're going to do questions, but I'm assuming after. And the other thing that we discovered here, and because we're so immersed in it, you forget, there's a huge information vacuum in the community for information that we all own and know, but it isn't other people's key issue. So if you could provide a vehicle or a document that allows people into our sector, they'll make use of it, and they'll make heavy use of it. So we've gone from 1,500 downloads the first year to last year over 10,000. And to use our our report card. You have to go in and you have to download the darn thing so we know. We can track that people are using it. We go to visit politicians and we pull it out and we say, listen, we've got data. 5 years of data, 4 years of data. It's failed. Do something. And when they hear those kinds of messages, because you are sharing not your beliefs, which is that everyone has the right to housing. They're not really as interested in our beliefs when it comes to spending public money as they are in our data. And that's the key thing. It's sometimes hard to bring together data and social justice, but it's worth all the work. I'm going to stop here.